Oh, hey guys, it's Dave here in the Hobo Dojo. Apologize for the sound of saws and hammers. If you're hearing them in the mic, I got a bunch of construction going on about 30 feet that way from where I'm now sitting. So hopefully it won't be too obnoxious. And I'm glad that those of you who are watching are still subscribed to this channel. We lost a lot of subscribers because of my last video. The most thumbs down votes I've ever received by a factor of about 8 or 9. It was pretty brutal. You know, when you absolutely must unsubscribe somebody who you've agreed with on hundreds of occasions because you suddenly don't agree with them on one point, on one issue, uh, it might be time to, consider cooling your jets down a little bit. So anyway, I was here writing a couple of pieces that I'm working on that I'm going to be bringing out soon that I hope you'll enjoy. And Jason messaged me, and he had found a couple of articles in the Washington Post, which we as a channel have a subscription to. And I know that a lot of you don't, and you might not be able to see the Washington Post article. So Jason thought it would be a good idea if one of us made a quick video and he was on his way out to go to work. So this is what I'm doing. So let me take you over and screen share and show you what these articles are about. Okay, this is the first one. FBI report warned of war at Capitol, contradicting claims that there was no indication of looming violence. Can you imagine, just for a quick sec before I scroll on past this picture, can you imagine doing that? This is the Capitol building. They've already got one window broken out here, and here this guy's up here just smashing a window out, casual as can be. Oh yeah, I just thought I'd come down here and break windows out of the Capitol. Wow. That shows you what can really happen when you go down these sort of hardline rabbit holes. A day before rioters stormed Congress, an FBI office in Virginia issued an explicit warning that extremists were preparing to travel to Washington to commit violence and, quote, war, unquote, according to an internal document reviewed by the Washington Post that contradicts a senior official's declaration that the Bureau had no intelligence indicating anyone at last week's demonstrations in support of President Trump planned to do harm. And just as an aside, this person writes for a living. I mean, what a mess of a sentence. A situational information report approved for release the day before the U.S. Capitol riot painted a dire portrait of dangerous plans, including individuals sharing a map of the complex's tunnels and possible rally points for would-be conspirators to meet in Kentucky, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, and South Carolina, and head in groups to Washington. Well, I saw those maps on social media, didn't you? All right, next article. Outgoing Capitol Police Chief, House Senate security officials hamstrung efforts to call in National Guard. This is the Capitol Police Chief, Stephen Sund, who, this is him appearing before Congress in 2019. And he has resigned over the, big messy kerfuffle there at the Capitol. This reads, 2 days before Congress was set to formalize President-elect Joe Biden's victory, Capitol Police Chief Stephen Sund was growing increasingly worried about the size of the pro-Trump crowds expected to stream into Washington in protest. To be on the safe side, Sund asked House and Senate security officials for permission to request that the D.C. National Guard be placed on standby in case he needed quick backup. But Sund said Sunday they turned him down. In his first interview since pro-Trump rioters stormed the U.S. Capitol last week, Sund, who has since resigned his post, said his supervisors were reluctant to take formal steps to put the Guard on call, even as police intelligence suggested that the crowd President Trump had invited to Washington to protest his defeat probably would be much larger than earlier demonstrations. These people and their run-on sentences, it's really something. But that proceeds to this. House Sergeant at Arms Paul Irving said he wasn't comfortable with the optics of formally declaring an emergency ahead of the demonstration, Sund said. Meanwhile, Senate Sergeant at Arms Michael Stenger suggested that sons should informally seek out his guard contacts, asking them to lean forward and be on alert in case Capitol Police needed their help. So they were worried about optics. They didn't want the optics of a well-guarded Capitol building. Now, wouldn't you think that they would want that? Because then you'd see an enormous crowd, and then they could very well say, well, look, we had to bring out the National Guard to stop these Trump crazies from causing a ruckus. So, I mean, isn't that just shocking? Meanwhile, inside the people's house, our hardworking Congress people were doing their best job they could for you, the American people. You would think that that optic would be something that they would want, given their particular narrative. Instead, they kept the troops all out, and what the optics that were presented to the potential rioters was an unguarded Capitol. I learned a long time ago that if you're going to park your car in a bad neighborhood, don't leave the keys in it and unlocked. If you're staying in a hotel and you're sightseeing, while you go out, and don't leave money laying around on the end table in your motel room. You don't want to tempt people into criminal behavior, particularly people who are hyped up, highly emotional. You don't want those people who are coming in vast numbers. And President Trump has said specifically to go and protest at the Capitol building. He told them to do it peacefully, which wasn't probably reported by the Washington Post. But you would think you would want the kind of optics that would say, this is government doing their job, stay back, instead of, nobody home here, nothing going on. I'm going to leave that as my opinion for this piece and show you a video that was also published by the Washington Post. But I want you to, when you go into this video, remember these are liberal people who are not supporters of Donald Trump that are showing you the video I'm about to show you. And tell me, you watch this video and see if you don't feel like this is very, very damning to whoever it is that controls the Capitol Police, which, as far as I can tell, is Congress.
The Capitol Police treated this as just another regular Sunday protest outside the mall or downtown Washington, and that there were not significant reinforcements on hand. This was not any special plan other than putting up bike rack and barriers as a show of force to keep protesters away. There were numerous warnings going into that Wednesday at 2:15 when the breach occurred. Many days of warnings that the president was urging his supporters to go to the Capitol.
All of us here today do not want to see our election victory stolen by emboldened radical left Democrats, which is what they're doing.
Days before a pro-Trump mob stormed the U.S. Capitol, far-right groups posted encrypted messages in online forums threatening violence and plans to smuggle guns into Washington, D.C. Expected turnout for the rallies protesting election results grew to be in the tens of thousands.
The groups of protesters were mounting in size. There were people gathering and staging protests to march on the Capitol. This would be something the Capitol Police not only knew, but was repeatedly warned about in conference calls with the mayor's office and the Metropolitan Police Department.
According to your briefing with the D.C. Council this morning, you're expecting a larger Trump crowd than previous demonstrations.
We will be increasing our visibility around the churches in the area. Obviously, these situations are very fluid when on game day when things are happening, but we have checked out the area, the footprint where the demonstrations are expected, so we will be increasing our presence down there in the area.
As the mob stormed the Capitol on January 6th, the president's supporters overran police, broke through barriers, smashed windows, and entered the halls and offices of Congress. It appeared that the U.S. Capitol Police was unable to stop them.
So this is just heartbreaking. I was planning to sit on the sofa and watch the entire, what I thought was going to be the entire circus on the floor of the House yesterday, and instead got quite a different show.
Ahead of the day's events, the National Guard activated 340 unarmed members to assist D.C.'s police force. Mayor Muriel Bowser specifically requested limited federal agent presence because the city and the Pentagon did not want a repeat of the mass military response to racial justice protests that Trump ordered over the summer. But the city does not protect the Capitol grounds and building. The Capitol Police does.
The U.S. Capitol Police have the day-to-day responsibility for the physical protection of the building, the members, and the staff. The primary role of the Sergeant at Arms is to protect members and staff, both in the Capitol and in the state offices.
This unruly mob is literally running up the steps of the Capitol, and Capitol police officers are trying to outrun them, and in some cases are not winning. There were just a few officers at some of these doors, and many of these doors and windows were not guarded. They were locked, but they weren't protected. A cluster of about a dozen people using a riot shield to break open bulletproof glass.
It's open!
Hop into the people's house and eventually get within feet of the speaker's lobby.
It's too late once everyone is in the building, and they've not gone through any form of security. You don't know if they've got guns. You know they're carrying, in some cases, pipes and other things. So it's too late at that point.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe we're in here right now.
After the breach of the Capitol around 2 p.m., the Capitol Police asked the Defense Department for more National Guard backup, but the Pentagon did not respond. Both Maryland and Virginia's governors detailed panic phone calls from Mayor Bowser, asking them to activate their state's National Guard, something the Defense Department had refused to do at that point.
I also told them that I authorized the mobilization of the Maryland National Guard and that I was ready, willing, and able to immediately deploy them to the Capitol. However, we were repeatedly denied approval to do so.
Around 3 p.m., the Army Secretary activated the entire D.C. National Guard. Eventually, Maryland and Virginia's were too. And later, federal agents from the FBI, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, and the U.S. Marshals Service were deployed to finally regain control of a mob that had overtaken the building. Follow began the next day. The House Sergeant at Arms Paul Irving and Capitol Police Chief Stephen Sund have resigned.
Well, let me just say this. Many of our Capitol Police just acted so bravely and so with such concern for the staff, for the members, for the capital of the United States.
But I think it's clear that there was a sort of a monumental failure, and the Capitol Police, no doubt, are trying to get their ducks in a row to explain how this could have unfolded in this way.
The morning after, 7-foot-tall, non-scalable fencing was erected around the Capitol, which will remain in place for at least 30 days. The FBI issued a call for tips to help them identify rioters who invaded the building.
These are brave Capitol Police officers, men and women, and they all work very hard and put themselves in harm's way on a regular basis. But I don't know that there's a page in the playbook that addresses presidentially inspired mob